Imagine standing in the main galley of a Royal Caribbean Oasis-class ship at 4 in the morning. The ship is somewhere off the Bahamas, the night shift lights are on, and the compressors of the walk-in freezers hum softly behind stainless steel walls. The bakery has been running since midnight, bread is already proofing, a handful of line cooks are 3 hours into prep, butchering proteins for a service that does not begin for another 4 hours. The floor moves very slightly under your feet, the ocean reminding you where you are. In 6 hours, the executive chef and his brigade will plate the first of around 30,000 meals they serve before tomorrow morning. Breakfast for nearly 9,000 people, then lunch, then dinner. A buffet that never closes. Room service to thousands of cabins. How on earth do they do that every single day for months on end? That is exactly what we are going to find out today. Hi, my name is Jack, and this is Life at Sea, the channel where we go inside the lives of the people who actually live and work at sea. The cruise chef we are talking about today is not a hotel chef who happens to be at sea. The executive chef we are talking about today runs the entire food operation of a modern mega ship, one of the Oasis or Icon class vessels from Royal Caribbean, one of the XL class ships from Carnival, a Norwegian Breakaway, an MSC Meraviglia, a Princess Sun, floating cities feeding 8,000 or 9,000 people every single day, 24 hours a day, for months at a stretch. It is one of the most relentless jobs in commercial hospitality anywhere in the world, and most passengers eating breakfast on Lido deck have absolutely no idea what is happening 5 decks below them to make that omelet possible. So let me paint a picture of what feeding 5,000 passengers a day actually looks like from the inside. I want to start with some numbers, because the scale of this is genuinely hard to grasp from outside. Royal Caribbean's Director of Fleet Operations for Culinary, Gary Thomas, runs around 6,700 chefs working across 42 separate kitchen operations on 30 ships. Across the whole fleet, his teams produce around 125,000 meals every single day. On an average single sailing, that one ship is feeding roughly 7,600 guests and 2,700 crew. Princess Cruises' newest ship, the Sun Princess, runs a galley of 253 chefs, producing over 20,000 meals daily, and at any given moment, there is around $6.2 million worth of food and alcohol on board. The bakery alone goes through over 1,300 pounds of flour every day. For a single 7-day sailing on Symphony of the Seas, with about 6,600 passengers and 2,200 crew, the provisioning numbers are honestly hard to read out loud without pausing. 60,000 eggs, 9,700 pounds of chicken, 6,800 kilograms of beef, 9,070 kilograms of potatoes, 5,715 kilograms of flour, 1,133 kilograms of salmon, 2,404 kilograms of bacon, 680 kilograms of coffee, 450 cases of champagne. And the galley turns out around 3,200 slices of pizza per hour during peak service. Here is the thing most people do not realize. The executive chef is not standing at one stove orchestrating all of this from a single point. On a mega ship of this size, he is moving between as many as 10 separate galleys spread across the vessel, 16 guest decks, 18 different dining concepts, a buffet that never closes, a pizza place open until 3 in the morning, specialty restaurants like Chops Grill, Jamie's Italian, 150 Central Park, Wonderland, Hooked, Izumi, each one with its own kitchen, its own menu, its own brigade, all reporting up to one person. And the kitchen environment itself is brutal. It is hot, it is loud. Service overlaps constantly. Breakfast in the Windjammer buffet is still going strong when prep for lunch is already starting back in the main galley. The ship is moving. The floor has a faint, constant motion that you stop noticing after a week, but which every piece of equipment has to be engineered to handle. And then there is the bakery, which on most megaships runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The ship simply cannot store enough bread, pastry, and dessert for 2 days at this scale. Every loaf served at every breakfast, every pastry in every coffee shop, every dessert in every dining room was baked while the previous shift of passengers was sleeping. This is where it pays to compare operators, because they do not all do this the same way. A Royal Caribbean Oasis-class ship and a Carnival Excel-class ship and a Norwegian Breakaway-class ship are genuinely different operations under the hood. Different deck layouts, different galley philosophies, different specialty restaurant counts. A chef who has worked all three will tell you each one has its own personality and its own particular headaches. Honestly, the rhythm of a well-run galley at full service is its own kind of beautiful. So how does it actually work? The first thing to understand is that this is not one kitchen. It is a system of kitchens. Modern megaships do not have a single galley. They have between 5 and 10 networked together in what the industry calls a hub and spoke design. A large central main galley handles the heavy preparation work, the butchery, the vegetable rooms, the stock and sauce production, the bulk bakery, which on most ships runs 24 hours a day, producing every loaf of bread and every dessert from scratch. From there, prepared components move out to satellite galleys that finish dishes for specific venues. The main dining room, which on Symphony of the Seas is a 3-deck space across decks 3, 4, and 5. The buffet, each specialty restaurant, each casual eatery. The equipment is purpose-built for the marine environment, marine-grade stainless steel everywhere because anything less corrodes in the salt air. Bolted-down induction cooktops, slide-away door combi ovens engineered specifically for tight galley quarters, blast chillers, tilting brat pans, walk-in freezers larger than most family homes. Any old executive sous chef who has worked an Oasis-class galley will tell you the hub and spoke is what makes the whole thing physically possible, simple in concept, extraordinarily clever in execution. The second piece is how the food actually gets onto the ship in the first place. The key word here is turnaround day. The ship comes alongside early in the morning. Passengers from the previous cruise are off by mid-morning. New passengers start boarding by early afternoon. In that window, somewhere between 6 and 8 hours, the galley team has to receive, check, sort, label, and stow up to 30,000 individual items of food and beverage. On MSC Bellissima, sailing out of her home port of Genoa, that means an average of 15 full trucks of provisions arriving every cruise, 2 of them carrying nothing but fresh fruit and vegetables. A single loading involves over 100 different people working on the pier and below deck. The ship's inventory compliance officer, the food and beverage director, the provision master, the executive chef, and the storekeeper are all on the pier or down in the receiving area, working with portside logistics teams who do nothing but cruise ship provisioning for a living. Storage follows strict first in, first out discipline. Fresh produce goes into ethylene-controlled containers to delay ripening. Items with the shortest shelf life are positioned to be used first, and the menu actually shifts subtly depending on what gets loaded. Fresh produce is often sourced locally during the itinerary, and the chef plans his weekly menu around what is reliably available from which port. Ask any old provision master and they will tell you the whole cruise stands or falls on that loading window. Miss it, and the rest of the week is damage control. The third piece is the team itself and the way it is organized. A modern cruise galley runs on the classical brigade system, scaled up enormously. At the top is the executive chef. Below him, the executive sous chef. Below them, the sous chefs running specific stations or restaurants. Below them, chefs de partie, each an expert in one area: sauces, roast, pastry, cold larder. Below them, demi-chefs and commis chefs. On a Royal Caribbean Oasis-class ship that is somewhere around 200 people in the galley alone. Industry interviews with serving executive chefs describe a day that starts at 6 in the morning with inspections of breakfast outlets, a brigade meeting at 8 in the morning with all the head cooks, a meeting at 9 in the morning with the food and beverage manager and the hotel director, mid-morning supervising production across every station, from butchery to pastry to buffet, midday tasting and approving the buffet setups, a short afternoon break, evening tastings, and then from around 5 in the evening until 10 at night, calling tickets in the main dining room. Most veteran chefs de cuisine will tell you the trick is never being more than 2 minutes behind the brigade. And then there are the small things that actually make this system survive contact with reality. A working galley at this scale runs on rituals, and they are surprisingly personal. The executive chef carries his own knife roll on and off the ship at every contract change. His own steel, his own honing rod, the same chef's knife he has had for years. That roll comes home with him on leave and back on board for the next contract. It is the one piece of his trade that is genuinely his. There is the clipboard. The next 24 hours of menus, mealtime counts, dietary flags, and station notes taped at the corners because it gets handled hundreds of times a day. It is never more than an arm's reach away. There is the scarf system. On most major cruise lines, galley staff wear colored scarves under their whites, black, red, white, or blue that signal rank at a glance. In a galley of 200 people moving at full service speed, you cannot stop to read name tags. The color tells you who outranks whom from across the room. Any veteran galley hand will tell you the scarf color matters more than the name tag. There is the brigade meeting, 8 in the morning, every morning, in the executive chef's small office off the main galley. Every head cook reports counts, any dietary restrictions for the day's bookings, any equipment problem from overnight. It takes about 40 minutes, and the day does not really start until it ends. There is the calling ritual at dinner. The executive chef physically stands at the pass in the main dining room and calls out the tickets, ordering 2 beef, 1 salmon, table 14. It is theater, yes, but it is also how the whole brigade stays in time with itself. And there are the personal things. The coffee mug kept in the office, never washed by anyone else. The blackout sleep mask in the cabin for daylight rest after a late service. A single photograph of family taped inside the locker door, because that locker is opened maybe 20 times a day. The wipe-down habit drummed in by United States public health rules, where every surface gets cleaned between uses. Every sanitizer bucket sits at exactly 100 parts per million of chlorine, and every refrigerator log gets signed off at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below. It is worth pausing on history here for a second. In the 1970s, the typical cruise galley was a smaller, simpler place, shorter menus, lower passenger expectations, far fewer specialty venues. The modern megaship galley, with its 18 restaurants and Michelin-trained executive chef and round-the-clock bakery, would be almost unrecognizable to the cooks who worked the old transatlantic liners. Now, look, this would not be a Life at Sea video if we did not get completely straight with you about the cost of all of this. Let us be honest for a moment, because this part is genuinely serious. The hours are real. Cruise line galley staff routinely work 10 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, for the entire length of a contract. There are no weekends at sea. There are no public holidays at sea. Every day is service day. The Maritime Labor Convention of 2006 sets the regulatory framework for rest hours and crew welfare. But the reality on a busy megaship is still relentless. Contracts for senior galley positions typically run 4 to 6 months, sometimes stretched longer for executive roles. That means months between hugs from your kids, months of watching your family grow up over WhatsApp. Most experienced cruise chefs will tell you plainly that the hardest part of the job is not the cooking, it is the absence. And on top of that, there is the time zone displacement. The ship is moving across the world. The chef tries to ring home and it is 4 in the morning where the family is sleeping. Calls get short and infrequent. People miss birthdays and anniversaries and school plays and parents' evenings on a rolling 4-month cycle. And the calendar back home keeps moving without them. The chef returns from contract and his child has grown an inch and learned to ride a bike, and he was not there for either. Mental health pressures are very real. Multiple interviews with serving and former cruise chefs describe depression, anxiety, and burnout as routine occupational hazards. Understaffing is a chronic problem in the industry. Senior chefs report training new arrivals from absolute scratch on a rolling basis, and when team members do not return after a contract, the ones who stay end up covering for them. The United States Public Health Inspection is its own constant stressor. The vessel sanitation program inspectors can walk on at any port unannounced, and the ship is scored out of 100 with 86 the passing mark. A failed inspection is genuinely career-shaking news for the executive chef in charge. The constant motion of the vessel adds physical risk. A slip in a working galley with hot oil and a moving floor is an injury, sometimes a serious one. And shore leave, the supposedly romantic part of seafaring life. For galley crew, shore time in modern ports is often nearly non-existent. By the time evening service is finished and morning provisioning is checked, the ship is already pulling away from the pier. The world goes past the porthole. This is the life. The food on the table in the main dining room is the result of an enormous amount of human effort happening below the waterline that the average passenger never sees. Where this is all heading is genuinely interesting. The industry is changing fast on the culinary side. Royal Caribbean and other major operators are now using forecasting tools powered by artificial intelligence to predict demand more accurately. Royal Caribbean's Vice President of Global Procurement, Vina Jump, has talked publicly about how more children on a sailing means more pizza, more crust, more cheese, and how these new tools can pull that data in by market. Smart controller combi ovens with programmable temperature monitoring mean less time standing over a stove and more time on the floor with the team. Automated cleaning systems are reducing water use across galleys. Vessels are still getting larger. Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Seas, launched in 2024, and Star of the Seas in 2025, are now the largest cruise ships ever built, and the food operations have scaled alongside them. The Centers for Disease Control's vessel sanitation program updated its environmental public health standards in 2025 to align with the Food and Drug Administration's 2022 Food Code, tightening the regulatory environment further. Sustainability has also become a real operational pressure on the galley. A modern megaship with around 6,000 people on board generates roughly 24 tons of wet food waste and 14 tons of dry waste every single day. The chef is now the one accountable for how that gets managed, from portion control on the buffet to repurposing leftover proteins into late-night offerings. Major operators now report recycling rates that are roughly 60% higher per person than the average rate on shore. The role of celebrity chefs is reshaping passenger expectations of what is possible at sea. Jamie Oliver designed Jamie's Italian for Royal Caribbean. Guy Fieri put his name on Carnival's poolside burger venues. Curtis Stone designs menus for Princess. The result is that an executive chef on a modern megaship is not running a hotel kitchen anymore. He is running something much closer to a Michelin volume operation that happens to be floating. One brief note, because credibility matters here. This is an internationally crewed industry, and the modern executive chef on a major cruise line has often worked Michelin restaurants in Europe, hotels in North America, or fine dining in Asia before going to sea. The talent comes from across the world. So when someone asks how one cruise chef feeds 5,000 passengers 3 meals a day, the honest answer is that one chef does not actually do it alone. No one human can. But what one chef does do is stand at the center of the system that does. He is the one holding 200 cooks in time with each other across 10 galleys and 18 restaurants, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, for months on end. The entire experience of a cruise, the food, the service, the sense of effortless abundance that passengers remember rests on whether that one person can hold the choreography together, which, when you actually think about the logistics of it, is genuinely remarkable. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to Life at Sea for a lot more content just like this. And if you have ever worked a galley contract, sailed as a cruise passenger, or known someone who has stood in front of those swinging stainless steel doors at 3 in the morning, drop it in the comments below. I would genuinely love to hear it. Thanks for watching.